Okay, so we have just witnessed episode 2 of HBO's Watchmen, created by Damon Lindelof, and this episode was directed by Nicole Cassell, who also directed the first episode. Now, after watching the first episode, you see all this review bombing people are talking about and how this is kind of angering a lot of people, this show. My take so far just on that is you gotta, whatever way you lean politically, whenever you're watching or reading something, give it a chance and let the whole picture form before you make a judgment on what it's trying to say. And also, I think what Lindelof's doing here, like the comic of Watchmen did, where it's kind of hitting on hypocrisy everywhere. And you see that really starting to form in this episode. And that kind of even comes to the revelations we get here about Chief Crawford after we saw he was lynched the last episode. Now, what we're supposed to assume here is that he is secretly a member of the Klan, or was, or what Sister Knight was kind of hinting at to Old Man Will was that, wait, did you just put that in there? But we learn more about Will here and the man in the wheelchair, and then now this kind of goes to people's theories about him being Hooded Justice, who's originally from the Watchmen comics, and those theories now are getting closer to most likely because in the comics, Hooded Justice was a Nazi sympathizer, so they kind of set that up in the beginning of this episode in the first sequence, so it's leaning more towards that. And when he says he has friends in higher places, and then at the end when that ship comes down, a lot of people now are theorizing that is Night Owl from the original comics. Whatever it is, make sure you read the comics. This show really asks a lot of that. It's trying to bring people in who haven't too, but I don't know how that's going to sustain and last. You could see there's scenes that are more focused on Regina King's storyline, but most of it is kind of weighing on knowing knowledge of what happened in the comics, or at least watch the movie to cheat a bit. But I suggest reading it. And for someone who read the comics, I absolutely love the scene with Ozymandias here when we first see the first act of his play about Dr. Manhattan. And it's like this play version he's written straight from the comics about how Dr. Manhattan becomes Dr. Manhattan. And then we get the revelation that these are clones or androids of some sort, and that Ozymandias is still just brutal and is just burns one of them for the sake of the play, and then on to the next one for him. And then in Watchmen, true fashion, whenever they represent Dr. Manhattan, we got to see his penis here. So it's pretty funny that was like they made such a moment of that too. Like clearly they knew what they were doing. And there's people now, you watch how they finally showed us this like show that's being shown in this alternate world about the Minutemen back in the day, and we see Hooded Justice here being acted out. And a lot of people think this is kind of a dig at Zack Snyder's Watchmen, especially with the narration, the type it was straight to film like the movie was, where it was kind of just going really full-on comic, but it's kind of comparing and contrasting to Damon Lindelof, who's taking the approach more grounded, where that did kind of feel like it was kind of showing how you can make it too exaggerated and too comic-y when you put it to screen. And you see that in that show about the Minuteman with Hooded Justice who comes in. But really cool scene. Again, I love that they weren't shying away from a little violence here, and then smashing the head with the register was extra brutal and awesome. And that goes to as well when they go to Nixonville here, and Sister Knight, I mean, when she starts getting those punches in, that was a really cool scene, especially, again, because the score is absolutely amazing to me. And the way they let that score they hit like this one synth note here that they were just holding when that was happening, when she was getting kind of crazy. So that was really cool. And we learned so much more about her character here, and that she actually is the Rorschach type, like the comic was, with this black and white belief here, and that she might now be turning a blind eye to Chief Crawford and what he's all about, kind of how Rorschach did with the comedian. So, and she's saying, like, to Topher here about the black and white. This is the second episode now. She sees that they're not rainbows and lollipops. And we get the reveal, too, that these kids are adopted, but they're also from fallen partners that she had in the Force. And it was nice that they were kind of giving us a lot of information here for a second episode, which I appreciated. And it was kept moving, and it obviously feels, again, so weird at points, but it was working, and you got more of an idea of where this is kind of headed, but you also kind of got an idea where you're never going to know what's actually really going on, especially the Ozymandias stuff and where he really is. I liked, though, a lot of the mentions of Dr. Manhattan here, and it's interesting how they're going to work with this character of the old man Will when we'll see him again, and how the classic Watchmen are evolved in this storyline. And we got to see more, too, of just Looking Glass's relationship with Sister Night and how they operate, and especially with the Red Scare, too. The Red Scare is all kind of instinct here and very emotional, and Looking Glass is, like she says, cold here. And I like the line here. He said he's still crying behind the mask, so there's some really good writing here as well. And it's just left a lot of mystery here, which Lindelof's the master at, and making you just kind of wonder what's going on. And what's exciting about this show is that it's another Reddit type show like Westworld Season 1 was, where people are excited now, and it kind of just happened, like, where I've just coworkers I've just like talked to and been excited about, and like water cooler talk now. It's like that new show, and it's just fun to jump on Reddit. And I mean, even just the first episode, as the week went on, people were still catching things. So props to the team of the show. I mean, it's so detailed and so many little references and Easter eggs to the comics, and they're making it work, and they're earning it right now, and giving it justice, which is a lot of pressure. But again, this show is so polarizing to me. I don't know, what this end game is for audience purposes. Who's going to be watching this? Is just going to be diehards? If so, that's great. But it's just interesting to see how maybe just a regular casual viewer will take this show on, if they'll stick with it or not. But we'll see. But I'm excited for where things are to come. Again, the score is great. The acting is amazing. Regina King is really just amazing at this role. Tim Blake Nelson's awesome as Looking Glass. And it's cool that we're going to get flashbacks too. I like that. And then it gives us a chance to see great actors like Don Johnson again in the flashback. And you just kind of trying to put pieces together here with everything. Especially when we see Will as a kid too. There's just going to be a lot we have to kind of learn and take in. So the preview looks exciting for next week. We're finally going to see Silk Spectre now that she's older, so that should be interesting. But this is looking up for me, so I'm giving this one a 9. I thought it was really solid. It still feels like it has a little bit of odd pacing issues, but the editing was still on point here. It just feels like there's a weird rhythm to the show, but I think it will eventually just hit like a groove, and I think it's just still trying to put all the pieces together. So we'll see where that goes. But let me know what you thought of this episode below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and please subscribe. I will be reviewing every episode of Watchmen, so you don't want to miss one of those. I'm also reviewing His Dark Materials and a bunch of other shows as well. I do movies, and I do celebrity interviews as well, so you don't want to miss that. Please follow me at Steve Varley1 on Twitter and Instagram for more of me, and I'll see you next time.